All right, good morning. Got one good morning. How you guys doing? Good. Well, my name's Jack. I'm the lead pastor here. If we haven't officially met, we're glad you joined us this morning. And our middle school director is in labor right now. Also happens to be my daughter. So, yeah, first one. I know what you're thinking. He's too young to be a grandpa. That's what I've been thinking. But I did order one of those little cute shirts on Amazon this week that it says something to the effect of, I can melt my grandpa's heart. What's your superpower? So I'm very excited to see her in that little outfit. So, yeah, that's exciting news, and we could be getting a call any minute. So if I just run off of here, you'll know what's going on, and you guys can sing a little longer, right? All right. Well, we've been in a series called Making Great Decisions. The first week I talked to you about the best question ever, and what was that best question? Do you remember? What's the wise thing to do? Now, that makes a teacher feel so good when you guys remember some things. And then last week, Ryan Yoder, one of our board members, did a fabulous job talking about living on purpose. And let me just say, if you didn't make it for that one, if there's one that you go online and watch, don't watch one of mine this year. Watch Ryan's. Go see that. Because really, really great stuff, very practical, especially those of you who are in the business world, things like that. Some really, really awesome stuff. So make sure you check that out if you weren't here last week. So I want to continue today, and I kind of want to submit to you that, in my opinion, I think the biggest difference between successful people in life and people who aren't as successful, the biggest difference between people who have a lot of regrets in life and people who have less regrets in life doesn't seem to be around how much money they have or their country of birth or even IQ. I think it has a lot to do with our topic this morning. It's that they have wisdom. It seems to me that people who make really great choices over and over in life have wisdom. And so I want to look at that a little bit. We make a lot of decisions in a day. I looked it up, and the number is all over the map. I mean, there's automatic decisions that you just kind of on autopilot make, but then there's some big decisions. There was an article about elementary teachers, and they make a lot of decisions, maybe more than normal people in a day. And one article was 35,000 in a day. I think that seems like a lot. But one said about 70 kind of important decisions in a day. Decisions that affect other people around us, affect you. So I want to go with that 70 number. Let's just go with that low number for our purposes. If you take that and multiply it out over a year, you're looking at, where's my math people, 25,550, right? And in 70 years, 1.7 million decisions. That's a lot of decisions. And I said in week one that you could kind of sum up your life by the decisions that you make. Your decisions in life are kind of you look back, and if you're going to leave a legacy or have a lot of regrets, it's those decisions, the sum of all your choices. And it's really easy to make poor choices, isn't it? Not so easy sometimes to make wise decisions. And we all have chapters in our life. We wish we could get a do-over. Maybe it was a weekend or a bad business deal or a relationship gone wrong. And sometimes our poor choices and bad decisions they come at a high cost, don't they? Sometimes they cost us a marriage. Sometimes they cost us a lot of money. Sometimes they cost us an important friendship or even, a piece of our soul. So let's just take a moment and think about some decisions that you've made around certain topics, just to kind of get underneath this idea of how many decisions you actually make. How about around dating? Who you dated, who you didn't date. That date that you wish never exists, never happened. Some of you are married to the person right now you're sitting next to, the person that you dated. That was a pretty important date, that first date. Pretty important decision, wasn't it? How about churches you visited? Or churches you've left? Or churches you've joined and said, I want to be a part of this church. We all have some of that in our past. We have a family that is still Go Here, and they've been here now for quite a while, but they told me when they were looking for a church, we had made the top 3, and what it had boiled down to was this really, really theological thing. It was that our chairs were really cushiony and wide. And so that's why they chose us. Hey, whatever works, They made a pretty important decision to start attending here. How about college? I met my wife at college. What if I would have taken that summer off or gone to a different college? Jobs you took, jobs you quit, jobs you wish you would have taken. Big important decisions around these topics. I had 2 job offers at the same time that I think it was a pretty pivotal decision in my life. Wendy and I were living in Rochester, Minnesota. We're fresh out of college. We're both looking for teaching jobs. We're school teachers. And I get a phone call from my college, and they said, we'd like to hire you to come back and work at the college. And about 2 hours later, I get another phone call from, you guys remember Trailways, buses, Greyhound buses? In high school, I used to load the buses. That was my high school job. Well, I kind of learned all the ins and outs of the Trailways, Greyhound bus. And anyway, they tracked me down and said, hey, there's an opening in Fort Collins, Colorado to run the bus station. It's like what I always wanted to do. But Winnie and I really wanted to get back to Colorado because I grew up in Colorado. So I had these 2, which way we were going to go. And I had about 24 hours to reply. And we chose the bus station, and here we are. I didn't do that very long, but it got us back to Colorado. And so, these decisions we make can really shape the rest of our life. Where to travel has shaped some of you. The kinds of food you choose, clothes you wear, the car you drive, the house, haircuts. Some of you have got some bad haircuts. Like you've made some bad choices on the whole haircut thing. Luckily, you can always fix that after a while. How about this one? When to confront others and when not to confront others. You've made some decisions around that, and there have been, kind of repercussions because of it, right? Think about those. Time management. Habits. I'm going to talk more about habits next week. Good habits, bad habits. Health. To exercise or not to exercise. It can be overwhelming. All of these choices, all of these topics. Raise your hand if you've made at least one decision you regret ever in your life. We've all been there, haven't we? We've all done it. And so my main point today is that you don't have to make decisions in a vacuum. You can get some help. You can phone a friend, so to speak. And so I want to look at a guy who was great at making decisions. Maybe the best ever. And his name's Solomon. And he was the king of Israel. And Solomon had just taken over for his dad, David. And these were some big shoes to fill. David was a legend. He still is. For any Jewish person, King David is, he's like a legend. And so Solomon had just taken over as leader for his dad. And I just want to point out, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but do you remember who Solomon's mom was? Where's our Bible scholars? You want to say it, but you're not quite sure, am I right? It was Bathsheba. We talked about Bathsheba. Talked about a bad decision that David made, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. And the first baby from that bad decision died. There's consequences for our decisions. I see people all the time, they're like, why did God let this happen? There's consequences for our choices. And there was consequences. There's kind of universal laws. If you jump off of a skyscraper without a parachute, there's a universal law called gravity. And there's going to be some consequences for that decision. And it's the same way in life. But what's really cool about this is God redeemed that bad decision. It took a little while, but now here comes Solomon out of this union with Bathsheba, who is now David's wife. So let's pick it up in 1 Kings chapter 3, verse 5. It says, at Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. And God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Now, let me just pause for a second and talk about dreams. Pay attention to your dreams. I think God speaks to us through dreams. I keep, if I wake up with something, I write it down. Keep your phone or something. Sometimes I wake up with a solution to a problem that I've just been working on, but I can't figure it out, and then I got it. Write it when I wake up. Sometimes I have ideas for what I'm going to tell you in my talks. I think that's supernatural. Sometimes I have something for people, words. So God will speak to you in dreams, but you need to pay attention. So that's just that's extra. That's bonus for this morning. And so God basically says to Solomon, what do you want? What do you want? I'm going to give you a blank check. What do you want? Ask for anything. Here's how he responds. Solomon, verse 6, answered, you have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne this very day. Now the Lord, my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I am only a little child. I do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people. You have chosen a great people, too numerous to count or number. Do you catch Solomon's heart posture in this? I love his heart posture. He understands who God is. He understands his own limitations. There's no entitlement here, right? He understands that what he has is not because of anything that he's done, but because of the relationship that his father had with God. And I think that's interesting that our relationship with God can affect our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids. They can get a benefit, it seems, because of our relationship and our good choices in following God. Solomon's heart posture is amazing. He also understood servant leadership. He says, these aren't my people. These are your people. He doesn't say, I'm king of these people. He says, these are your people, God. How do you want me to lead them? There's a great message in there. And he understands that the fear of the Lord is important. Psalms 111:10 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And that word fear can be unpacked. It's not just like, scared. Although there are times God's very powerful and might want to be just a little scared. But it's also respect and adoration and worship and honor. Proverbs 11:2 says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. So it seems that humility is the doorway to wisdom, and that pride kind of blocks us from wisdom. So Solomon could have asked for anything in the world, and here's what he asked for. It's brilliant. It's the best decision ever. Verse 9, so give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? So he asked for wisdom. And it affects all of the other decisions he's going to make. If it's 70 a day, then all 1.7 million decisions that he's going to make. Probably made a little more than that because he's a king, right? It was a brilliant move. Here's a question. Have you ever done what Solomon did? Have you ever asked God for wisdom? We'll get back to that. So check out God's response. Verse 10, the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, since you have asked for this and not for long life, show of hands, how many of you would ask for long life? Okay, there's a few. People being honest. And because you didn't ask for wealth, how many of you would ask for wealth? I know, you're thinking like me. I'd help people. We'll build this building next door for the youth. I'm not going to use it for myself. But a little wealth would be nice. That's what I say to God when I say, could I just find a lottery ticket on the sidewalk and pick it up? Or wealth for yourself. And then he says, nor ask for the death of your enemies. Anybody would ask for the death of... We got a couple, all right. We didn't have any first service. All right, that's good. The death of your enemies. You'll notice that that's not one that seems to be included in what God does give him, but he does give him the other ones. But for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. So God takes this ask and he supersizes it. He gives him all these other things. He says, verse 13, moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for. Wealth, honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. And then he gives him a little bonus incentive package, something like these athletes. Verse 14, if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands as your father did, I will give you long life. Because really without long life, the wisdom's good, but it could only last what if it's just 2 days? I've been thinking about this way too long, haven't I? It's like the rock, paper, scissors thing. So, isn't this cool? Then Solomon awoke and realized it had been a dream, but it was a dream that actually came true. And it seems to me that when we pursue wisdom above everything else, all these other things get added. All this other prosperity in other areas follow. Wealth, honor, long life for him. And Solomon's not the only one that God gave wisdom to. You start digging in and looking at how many people God gave wisdom to in the Bible, there's a huge list. There's this guy with a really weird name named Bezalel. I mean, I don't know. In Exodus 31, the Lord said to Moses, see, I've chosen Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. That was kind of their address back then. People didn't have Facebook, and you didn't know how to find them. That's how you found them. I filled him with, check this out, the Spirit of God with wisdom and with understanding and with knowledge and with all kinds of skills. And look what he was good at, to make artistic designs out of gold and silver and bronze, and to cut stones and to work in wood and to engage in all kinds of crafts. So he's got this supernatural stuff from God, this wisdom to do stuff. I mean, you want to be a better musician? Ask God for wisdom. You want to be a better architect? You want to be better at your job? Ask God for wisdom. Whatever it is you do. And he did it all the time. There's a whole list of people. Joshua was a guy. It says in Deuteronomy 34:9, Joshua, son of Nun, these are more normal names, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. And there's another guy you might have heard of. His name's Jesus. Remember that guy? Luke 2:4, and the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom. And the grace of God was on him. This wisdom it's a real deal. It's a real thing. So how do we make great decisions? Here's a few takeaways, and then I'll have the band come back up. And you know what's exciting about this? You can use this today. You can use this stuff this week. I mean, some of you you're thinking about a big decision right now. While I've been talking, it's just been working part of your brain, hasn't it? A big decision you got to make. And you can use this stuff right away. That's what's exciting about this. The first one, it seems like a no-brainer, but it's to ask God for wisdom. I've been thinking about that. I can't remember a time that I asked God for wisdom. I asked God for lots of stuff. But I don't know if I ever asked him for wisdom. James 1:5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. So here's our challenge this week. Let's ask God twice a day for wisdom. Twice a day. And see if anything changes. Let's just do it. Let's just do it as a group. Just for fun. Oh, what do we got to lose, right? Twice a day. Maybe for you it's when you wake up and when you go to sleep. How about around food? We all eat, right? So when you eat this week, ask God for wisdom. Just ask him for wisdom. And let's see if anything happens. Let's see if anything changes for us. So that's number one. Start where Solomon did. Ask. Number two, when we make big decisions, we need to have a clear mind. And this comes from God too. Philippians 4:6 says, do not be anxious about anything. How many of you made poor decisions because you're anxious? Right? Yeah, all of us. But in every situation, by prayer and petition and thanksgiving, present your requests to God. This sounds like a person whose mind is under control and whose emotions are under control when we're making big decisions. Don't make important decisions when you're anxious or tired or drained or emotional or you feel like the victim or you're discouraged. There's this cool little interaction. I don't have time to get into it, but when Elijah had versed the prophets, you remember the big thing, and they called the fire down and all that. After that huge, cool thing where God shows up, Elijah is discouraged and he's on the run. And he's running from Jezebel and he's tired and he goes under this lake. It's called a broom bush. I don't know what that is. But he's just laying there and he's like, God, just kill me now. Just take me. I'm done. And God doesn't do that. That's what he felt. That's the decision he wanted. But for the next 40 days, God just sends angels to take care of him and get him rest and get him charged back up. And sometimes when we're in that place, we make bad decisions. For me, it's Mondays. Don't ask me for anything on Mondays. I try not to talk to people on Mondays. I just, answer a little email, read some books, start studying for Sunday, but no big decisions on Mondays for me. Find out when your time is, that you shouldn't be making big decisions. Number 3, count the cost. That's what wise people do. They count the cost. I talked about this the first week where we factor in forever. Count the cost. A lot of times we make decisions based on this is really good for right now. But we don't look down the road and we don't count the costs and we don't look at the long-term consequences of our decisions. We're too short-sighted. You want to hear a great line for a t-shirt? Proverbs 19:2. This should go on a t-shirt. Desire without knowledge is not good. How much more will hasty feet miss the way? We could have a little feet on there or something. Hasty feet. How many of you have made hasty decisions? And then you regret it. Wise people base decisions on not only what makes sense in the moment, but what is good for the long haul. And number 4, seek wise counsel. Get wise counsel. We got a lot of gray hair in this church. Leverage it. Use it. There's people they've been around the block. They're walking with a limp because they know where the landmines of life are. All right? So find somebody and ask them, or ask them to mentor you. Give them permission to speak into your life on a subject or a topic. Get wise counsel. And people who know you and have a good track record and for you, not people that like you so much that they're just going to tell you whatever they think you want to hear. That's not helpful. But God will speak to us through others. Proverbs 12:15 says, the way of fools seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. There's a little fool in each one of us, isn't there? You may be really good at certain areas of your life, but there's other areas where there's a fool driving the car. There's a fool at the steering wheel. You know what I'm talking about. And it seems right to you. We all have blind spots. We all have growing edges that we need to work out. And so ask for and listen to advice. In 1 Kings 11:3, Solomon, smartest, wisest guy ever, he still messes up. 11:3, it says he had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. Some guys collect sports cars. This guy collected wives of royal birth. My wife hates this verse. And what does it say happened? His wives led him astray. So, you know what I get from this? Like, we'll never have it completely figured out. But we still need to ask for wisdom. Even the wisest man ever still, the battle for wisdom never ends. But we got to be in the battle. We never arrive, but we can do better. We can do better than last year. We can do better next year in our choices and our decisions, whether it's in business or your relationships. I mean, it applies in every part of our lives. So this week, hey, let's make some great decisions with God. Let's ask for wisdom at least twice a day and see, like Solomon, if that doesn't change something. One last little thing I want to say in closing is that you have never made a decision so bad in your life that God can't forgive you or won't forgive you if you'll ask. Now, why do I say that? Because some of you are not reaching your full potential because of some bad decision, poor decision you made 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and you're still in bondage to that. Sure, there were consequences, but now it's time to give it to God and move on. Even when David messed up with Bathsheba, he was sitting in sackcloth and ashes, which is just, and fasting and all kinds of stuff. But when he heard that the baby had died, he got up, basically took a shower, put on his regular clothes, and moved on. And some of us need to do that. So I hope you hear that this morning. We're saved by grace and the power of Jesus, not by all the good or bad choices we make, except for one. There's one very important decision that each of us has to make, and that's what are you going to do with Jesus? When Jesus was crucified, he's on a cross, and he's between two criminals. And these guys were bad dudes. They had made a lot of really bad decisions, a lot of bad choices. That's why they were up there. That's why they were being killed. And one of them turned to Jesus and said, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." He made one good choice in his life, one good decision in his life, to call on the name of Jesus. And Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." That one decision covered all of the other bad ones, a whole lifetime of poor decisions. And that's the gospel in a nutshell. And if that's you today, man, we would love for today to be your day. And so I'm going to just encourage you to go to our prayer area. Jeff's going to be back there, and just say, "Hey, today's my day." And he's going to lead you in a prayer, and you can get started. And I promise you, this will affect all of the rest of the decisions you make for the rest of your life. Okay? Let's stand. I want to pray for you. So, Father, I just thank you for this morning. I thank you that there's wisdom that comes from you. And it's supernatural. And all we have to do to access it is ask. To ask you for wisdom. And it starts with humility and respecting you and honoring you. And all we have to do is ask. And so I just pray today that as a church body, as a group of people, that we'll dare to ask for wisdom. That we'll dare to start there before we make any decisions, any choices. For that group of people, Father, that's here that messed up. We all do. That you'll just bring your healing and freedom, and they can get on with life. That you'll bring your empowering presence so that they can be everything you've created them to be, and they can do everything you've called them to do. When we face big decisions, I just pray that we'll factor you into the equation. We'll bring you in on the conversation. Start there. And for those today who are on the fence and they haven't made that all-important decision to follow you, for whatever reason, I just pray that today will be their day. Holy Spirit, we invite your presence here to just do business right now in our hearts. You know each one of us. You know the number of hairs on our head. You know everything we're going through. You know our fears and our hopes and our dreams. So we just invite you to do business. God, I pray that you'll show us right now those areas that we're foolish in, where the fool in us is running the show. And we'll give that over to you. Show us our blind spots, what we can't see. In Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen.